Three, two, one.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We are the Real Pineapple. This is Hunter, and I'm here with Scott. Scott, how you doing, sir?
Excellent, Hunter. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great because I'm about 3 minutes from beating our evil commissioner. That's Colin. For those of you who don't know, we
down
play
with the commish.
Yeah,
just kidding.
I'm
love
about,
you, Colin.
I love you, Colin. I just love beating you in fantasy even more. So about to beat Colin in fantasy in 3 minutes, which gets me so excited. And Scott, looks like you're going to win tomorrow too, more than likely. So
there's no guarantees in fantasy, so I'm gonna keep that one for myself.
Well, you know, I will say I hope that you beat Sean, because
you're the reigning champ.
Yeah, he's the worst. But anyway, so something that is not the worst is the movie we're about to talk about. So, fun fact: we actually recorded a review for this a couple weeks ago when it went into the random technical difficulties, lost recordings, unfortunately. You're
getting kind of the regurgitated version of this review. It's gonna be great, but it's not quite off the cuff, you know.
Yeah, it's not as fresh as the first time we did it. You know, it's still fresh. You know, it's like having
still fresh. Yeah, I would say it's still certified fresh, but not maybe as fresh as it could be.
Yeah, it's like getting like bread day market. Market day bread. That's like market day bread.
Day old. You get like a day old bagel. Like it's still good.
Yeah.
But like it's not quite as chewy and delicious as like piping hot bagel.
I realize I completely switched the words
bagel
there.
Fans out there,
dude. I do like a good bagel. Just throwing that out there. You know.
I would take a lot for me to turn down a bagel.
Yeah.
With cream cheese. Maybe get a pretzel bun. Maybe get an everything bagel. Almost pretty good too.
What we did actually have during the draft, which was fantastic, we had French toast bagels, and I got those with a little bit of myself as a cream cheese, aka brown sugar, which was.
Is that your stripper name?
That would be my stripper name. Would be brown sugar. Yeah.
Good.
My hashtag straight from the cane. That would be my. Get a little peek into my stripper mind here, but anyways, to tie that back, we're talking about Blackkklansman, brown sugar, Blackkklansman. Sure, it works. So
it works for me.
So I mean, I'll say I've been a fan of Spike Lee for a while. I mean, everyone probably points to Do the Right Thing. That's probably the movie, or Jumpin' Jack Flash. I mean, people probably go to those first. I do love Do the Right Thing. I think Son of Sam that he did is actually I think it's an underrated movie. I really enjoy it. Of course, Malcolm X, which, you've seen Malcolm X, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, that is still one of my favorite Denzel performances, if not my favorite one. I fucking love Malcolm X, and we didn't review it, but I remember talking to you and Colin about it. Did it a couple years ago. Chirac that he put out. That was a really good movie, and I think it was very indie, and I think that's why a lot of people just really didn't go see it. I think this movie is definitely going to get him way more buzz. They're already talking Oscar buzz with this, and I gotta be honest, man. After getting out of this movie, I totally get why. This is one of my favorite movies this year so far. Kind of your thoughts?
Wow, bold statement there from the host. Obviously you kind of have an idea that that you're going to be completely shocked through a Spike Lee movie. Sometimes it's to a less degree than others, but you have a general idea. So going into it, probably I like the cast list going into it, but you don't really know what you're going to get as far as intensity from Spike Lee, and this was at points was a bit of a slow burn definitely until the end, and then the climax of the movie for sure. But got a lot of the classics, certain camera angles, cinematography that you'll get from Spike Lee. Definitely a lot of trademark camera work, I would say, and directing. But yeah, overall, just very complete movie, I would say. How did you? What do you think of the main character in this one? Do you feel like he fit the role well?
Yeah. So jumping in here, Ron Stallworth, played by John David Washington, son of Denzel Washington, also known as my favorite fucking actor of all time. I love Denzel so much, and it's crazy that he's his son. I had no idea, to be totally honest with you. And I know you and Colin watched Ballers. I haven't really watched it. I know he plays Ricky on there, but I've heard nothing but good things about his portrayal. And this is really his on that show, and this is his first starring role. And I gotta say, man, I think the thing that's so fun about this movie, and I say fun as far as watching the performances, because it's not very fun subject matter they're dealing with. But what I found fun about his performance is that he really does take and portray the black experience very well. I mean, I don't know if you watch Blackish, but there's that scene with Anthony Anderson's character where he gets on the elevator and the little white girl gets on there, and he immediately jumps off the elevator, and all the black women are like, why did you get off the elevator? It's like, you can't be a black man seeing for a little white girl by herself. Like, people think you were trying to kidnap her. And I remember sitting there thinking, I've had that happen. I did the exact same thing. Ron Stallworth here, they asked him during his interview for the Colorado, it's Colorado, right?
Yeah, Colorado Springs Police Department.
They ask him point blank when they're interviewing for the job, if someone calls you a nigger, what would you do? And I went, I've definitely had people at jobs I've worked at say that word around me, and it's just okay, I can't, I can't grab something blunt and start punching the person. Like, I need to keep my cool. So when he goes, yeah, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I'm going to keep my cool about it, I went, yeah, unfortunately, that's what you have to do. And there's so many little points like that I think the movie brings up about being black that really resonated with me. What did you think about his performance?
Yeah, I think I could really relate to the young black male experience in the United States, being a young black male myself.
You practically are, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean yeah,
you're honorary black.
Yeah, definitely. The way that they went about portraying these characters as the same person, and basically what happens is right when Ron Stallworth joins the police department, he gets really hungry, doesn't want to continue to work in the records department, just doing bitch work essentially. So he gets into narcotics and just ends up calling the KKK, the local KKK chapter, and just being like, yeah, I hate black people and Jews. Can I meet up? And they're like, yeah. So
yeah.
So they get into this predicament where he's Ron Stallworth, who is obviously black, gets invited to this Klan meeting, and so he recruits Adam Driver to be Ron Stallworth, the face of Ron Stallworth, essentially, and that kind of leads down the path of them discovering who these people are, and you kind of get the inner workings of them through this. Both characters, John David Washington's Ron Stallworth on the phone, and then Adam Driver's character Flip Zimmerman, who as Ron Stallworth in person, and then obviously Topher Grace, I thought, was kind of at first kind of a strange pick for David Duke, like the Grand Dragon of the KKK, but I mean,
Dude.
he performed admirably. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I feel like he really embodied that guy.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll say about Eric Foreman. So I will be the first to admit I am still bitter as hell to the fact that he's the only person that's played Eddie Brock, aka Venom, in a Spider-Man film. That will soon change, but I'm still mad at him for Spider-Man 3. I was like, you motherfucker, like, because it fucked up that '70s show, it fucked up Spider-Man. Just like, so I've always kind of held resentment towards Topher Grace. I gotta give him credit, man. He stepped in this role, and he was on a Sway in the Morning, talking about Blackkklansman and getting to work with Spike Lee and everything. He just talked about the horrible research he had to do and how David Duke is such a fucking racist and how despicable of a human being he is and how he, was really at odds as far as like, this sucks, but I have this role to portray. And he got, I mean, the thing about David Duke, man, if you listen to some of his speeches, I mean, he's a piece of shit, don't get me wrong. But he does have this charisma about him. Mm-hmm. And I think that Topher Grace really captured that perfectly. Because even on the phone, there's this point where Ron Stallworth, Black Ron, is talking to David Duke. And he says, it's an honor to talk to a true white American hero. And without missing a beat, he goes, oh, is there any sort of American hero? And I went, motherfucker. Like I was sitting there, I'm like, you son of a bitch. But I went, that's a great fucking line. I hate you, but that's a really clever line. I just went,
yeah. Like, is there any other kind of white American hero? Any other kind of American hero? You hit the nail on the head. Topher Grace's character really embodied like the charisma that David Duke has. That was kind of like the coming out for the KKK, that time period where they tried to appease to a larger audience and tried not to come across so radical. So this guy David Duke was being the face of the organization, was trying to kind of like lessen the blow, so to speak. And I think Topher Grace played that really well. He's like charismatic enough and kind of, your everyman, to where you would want to be his friend, and then you actually hear what comes out of his mouth. You're like, wait a second, that's fucking crazy. But yeah, so the plot goes on, and I'm interested to hear what you thought about how this movie turned and through the climax and then to the end. If you thought that, because you said before that you were almost like laughing at the end because you knew of not because of what was going on, but because you knew of like the backlash essentially coming from this movie.
Yeah, so I mean, just kind of run through the rest of the plot. It really is about the two Ron Stallworths teaming up to take down David Duke and Adam Driver. Can we talk about Adam Driver and how I think he's going to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this role? Dude, he was incredible in this. I mean, I know you're a big Star Wars nerd. We all love Star Wars, but I think that they could give him more to do as Kylo Ren. That's just I've been pretty consistent on that. But the guy, I mean, between this and Logan Lucky, I mean, the guy is a hell of an actor, and he's really getting the show out in these movies. And he plays a Flip Zimmerman. And so what's cool about him is that you have Ron Stallworth, Black Ron, really accepting and embracing his blackness. But then you have Flip, you find out is Jewish, and he's dealing with these incredibly racist sons of bitches, and is kind of almost at odds with his Jewish heritage, which I thought was a really interesting subplot. How Ron brings up the fact that don't act like you don't have skin in the game, don't act like you're not a part of this, and they have this real cool back and forth about it being personal, and I just went, oh, that's really amazing. There's that one scene where Flip, as White Ron, he gets invited to one of the big clan meetings at this guy Felix's house, whose name I'm about to butcher, Jasper Pacoin, I'm gonna say. there's this scene where he's like, "You're gonna take this Jew lie detector test," and that scene is so tense because he's about to take this lie detector test, and the wife is racist, and dude, I was on pins and needles that whole scene. What did you kind of think of that?
Which scene?
The scene where he's about to take the Jew lie detector test.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you knew there was going to be a moment in this movie where their cover was a possibility for them being blown, and this particular one of the more outspoken Klansmen who had kind of always had it out for Ron to begin with, and Adam Driver's character kind of takes him down to the basement and basically is like, "You need to take this lie detector test so we know for sure you're not a Jew," essentially, and gets out of it basically because of John David Washington's character.
Stop thinking about football.
But yeah, definitely like super intense. I feel like the movie itself and the plot that was going on, the story that they were telling, was really like a precursor to like the last 5 to 10 minutes. So to me, it wasn't as intense as maybe I would want it to be.
Okay.
They threw in, it was more lighthearted. They weren't really. They obviously had like the two sides of, Black Panthers and the KKKs, which I really like, kind of them mirroring each other. But to me, it wasn't like on the edge of your seat intense. It was kind of one of those things you knew that they were gonna kind of get away with this, and especially it being based on a true story. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I think about this movie, all I can think about is that last 10 minutes, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I feel like it overshadowed the movie, not necessarily in a bad way, but I feel like it took away from the intensity from some of those scenes and really put it all in this last part. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't personally, because I think the movie climaxes really well when the two Rons are in the same room and David Duke is actually there, and he goes, "Oh, you sound different on the phone," and it like, I think that last half hour with the bombing and everything, I think it really ramps up, and I think it's very tense towards the end. I think because look, Spike Lee has never been accused of being a subtle director.
Right? No, I don't mean the climax of the plot necessarily. I just mean that last 10 minutes of like them showing footage, him showing like current event footage.
No. I get you.
Okay.
I think what I found interesting about that is that it does tie the fact that it puts a stamp on it, honestly, or an exclamation point. The fact that, hey, all this racism was happening really only 30 years ago, and while we have improved, we haven't changed as much as we should have. And I think that was the point of showing the footage, and for me, that's where I went, okay, I genuinely love this more. I think what's going to be interesting is my biggest complaint about the movie was the love subplot for me. With Laura Harrier, who plays Patrice. So she's playing really she works for the it's Black Panther Party, right? She's a member of Black Panther.
Right, yeah. She's like the part of the liberation movement on the university.
And she is black. I mean, she's got the black power fist, and her fro was amazing. Like, I had to sit back and go, "Good for you, girl!" Like her fro was on point, and it's weird because you remember you saw her in Spider-Man, right? In Homecoming.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the fros were definitely out for this movie.
It's really weird to see her in this because I was like, "Damn, she looks good." Oh wait, she was playing a high school student like a year ago. That's a little. I was like, okay, a little weird, but. I thought she did a great job in this. I think, for me, I felt like the romantic subplot, while it did get going eventually, I think it was a little shoehorned in from the stuff I really wanted to see with David Duke, if that makes sense. I think it took away from that at first.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think what you're also saying is I feel like it was definitely a bit forced in just to keep the movie going along. You needed some sort of. They felt almost obligated to have this like love story alongside of it, and she plays a larger role in this movie because of it. But I feel like when it started out, it just kind of happened. There wasn't any like no rhyme or reason for it. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and the cops seemed to be okay with it. And then he even spilled the beans on it like later on in the movie, and things kind of worked itself out. So it was like it didn't add a whole lot to this movie. I would agree.
Yeah, so I think near the end, or like I think it's the middle part, they go on this walk, and they bring up W.E.B. Du Bois, and they bring up the whole concept he talks about serving two masters, really serving the black part of you, the what is the natural side, and then dealing with how the world sees you. And I thought that was a fascinating, and dude, I'll be honest, man. So I mean, if you've listened to our Black Panther review, you know how proud I am of that movie, and I bring up like Tribe Called Quest, Nas, and me and you, we talk hip hop quite a bit, and it is that interesting, unfortunate dilemma of how black can you be until it kind of scares people, to be totally honest, and that broke my heart because I get that, man. I genuinely get that struggle. I mean, I throw my hair out and kind of go like, uh-oh, again. Like, but you know what I mean? Like, it's so, I really did sympathize, and really, I felt bad watching this because I went, I've been there, just to share a very quick story, it's kind of segue. So that Shaft remake they did with Samuel L. Jackson, fucking love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies to watch, probably still. And Christian Bale plays the racist, and I remember I saw that when I was 10 or 11, and I remember thinking, oh man, well, thank God, by the time I'm an adult, things will be way better. And and while it is better, it's not, like I still flinch when a cop car goes by me. And I'm not saying all cops are bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, I've definitely been stopped by cops and patted down and for walking with my backpack. That's happened a handful of times since I've lived here in Reno. So it sucks, So when he's talking about, changing the system from the inside, and while Patrice is talking about her distrust for the system, you get both sides because you do need to change the system, to change perception. But at the same time, there is that part of some people that goes, can this even be changed? So I understood both sides, and that's when the relationship started to work for me, was kind of during that walk, if that makes sense. So
yeah, definitely. I think the message was very clear in this, and one thing that I really liked is they did kind of a subliminal. It was not necessarily too subtle to be subliminal, but
no, probably not.
They kind of like kept this theme throughout the movie of saying a few taglines throughout this that you could trace back to like political campaigns, and not only like, and they're things that they repeat throughout that if you listen closely, you can pick up on them kind of repeating throughout that are super relevant today. And then definitely like the last scene was for sure stunning in a way that like the movie theater that I was at was like dead silent. Like so spoiler, it's been quite a bit this movie came out.
Yeah.
So they show, they have clips of like the recent
Charleston.
Is it Charleston or Charlotte?
Charlottesville.
Charlotte, yeah. I think so. Like the rally, KKK rally, where they got the tiki torches, and then the peaceful protest where some guy drives his car into the crowd, basically, and they show it multiple times from like different angles, and something I hadn't seen to its fullest. I saw kind of a clip before, and just like clips of David Duke reiterating some things that were talked about in the most recent campaign, presidential campaign. So they like this kind of story, which has a love, like kind of a side love interest to it, and it's almost ends in a very positive way, and then they really bring it home at the end with this things that are happening right now, and it really brings you out of it in like such a intense and immediate way that like you're left just kind of thinking about nothing else but that last scene, I think.
No, I agree, and I think that scene's meant to stick with you, and it definitely does. I mean, you see the footage. I hadn't seen the footage of the person driving the car into the rally. I hadn't seen that, and that was just, I went, oh my god, okay, like it's stomach churning, you know, and I think what this movie does is that it really does provide a dialogue to start. I mean, the thing is, I have. If you have me as a friend on Facebook, I have been just in Donald Trump just Civil War post battles the last couple months, like to the point where I just almost don't want to bring up Trump. I mean, I will because it's me and I have to poke the bear, but some posts recently where I'm just like, and Spike Lee, I think, is in the camp of most black people, where he's just so probably most people at this point where they're just over Trump. And he, much like myself, is just like, God damn it, dude. So he goes off the handle, I think, in the last 10 minutes. But to be totally honest, I think we keep politics out of here, off the podcast a good amount. But dude, even I'm just at that point where I'm just like, you know, the next thing that's just anti-Trump, I'm probably just gonna be like, yep, this is the best thing ever, blah blah blah. But Spike Lee, man, just kind of wrapping up here and getting my final thoughts. I thought Spike Lee, I think for a lesser director, this really could have fallen apart. And yet, there are a few complaints or a few gripes that we've shared, but overall, I think this is something that will get Spike Lee a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination. I think he'll get Best Director nod, honestly, too, for Oscars. And I would not be surprised if Adam Driver got a nomination, because he was great in the movie, man. I think this movie flows really well, even when it does slow down a little bit. There is a deliberate pace to it, and I think that a lot of the setup, the movie does reward you in that back half of the film. So yeah, for me, man, despite my complaints, I gotta do it. I gotta drop the hammer. I gotta give it a fan-fucking-tastic.
Thank.
You're welcome.
I can see, you know, why you might go that way. I think I was probably a little bit more critical about most of the first half of the plot. I think it was a bit slow and in the development, and you're right, there was a definite pace, but I was not a fan of the pace overall. And it kind of, I don't know, it was almost too positive in the way that, I don't know, maybe it showed light on this time period in more of a positive, not a positive way, but kind of like an everything's gonna be all right type of mentality, and then kind of flips it on its head at the end, which is really like brings it back for me, grade wise. But I don't know, I enjoyed Adam Driver's character, and I agree with you. I don't think there's a reason for him to not at least get a nomination for this supporting actor. But yeah, overall, the movie itself was solid. Message was crazy impactful, and like I went with Kelly, and we were just like awestruck basically at the end, and we kind of took us a while to digest. And I think it's something that needs to be seen, and it's not necessarily supposed to. There's a bit of sway in it as far as bias, but I think that it comes from somebody who knows what they're talking about. So I give this an A- overall.
A-, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like I said, guys, I think this is just one of the best things that you can see right now. So I know it is still out in some theaters, so if it is there, please go see it. Support this movie. Yeah, but guys, what did you think of Blackkklansman? If you saw it, let us know in the comments below. You can follow us on iTunes, Google Play Music, and SoundCloud at The Real Pineapple. You can like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can follow our buddy Colin, who just lost in fantasy to me. You can follow him on Twitter at The Real O'Neill. I'm going to hear about that. You can follow Scott on Twitter at
Number the First.
And you can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll have a review up this weekend for Night School, which I think could go one or two ways. I think that's going to be either really good or it's going to be a piece of crap. I'm not crazy about Kevin Hart in the movies. I will say.
Yeah.
So
it's a little gimmicky. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm black and short and loud. Like, I mean, I think that's kind of his go-to. But hey, stranger things have happened, so we'll see. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.